So when I was growing up, I had this teacher in 5th or 6th grade, and he loved to teach us just different life skills: how to balance a checkbook, how to sew like a little hole in your pants, or how to mend your shirt, or like just little skills like that. And he once taught us how to take apart a lamp, rewire the electrical, and then put it back together. And ever since then, I've always had this deep fascination of um, I've always had this deep fascination of taking things apart, just seeing how they work and seeing if I can put them back together again. And the first thing I do when I get something new is to see how far I can take it apart without breaking it. And that's harder nowadays with like warranties and stuff, but I still try my best. and and I think that's how I learn. I need to take something apart, and I need to touch it and feel it, and know that it's working, and that's how it works. And I am absolutely the same with the Bible, and I love to do this with the Bible. And I love to just find something and take it apart. And don't get me wrong, I really love a good Bible study, and a good teaching, and a good sermon, and a good word from a friend over a hot cup of coffee. But sometimes you just need to dive into that word by yourself. And that is where God and I have the most fun together. And it is fun for me to really see what God is doing within his word, and then within my life. And I love the story of the prodigal son, and that one seems to be the one that I always come back to when I need a failsafe or a good comforting story. And I've always been fascinated at a man who wanted everything right now. Does that sound familiar to you? I have a feeling that the prodigal son would have been just gone head over heels over a microwave, because he could have a hot meal right then and there. And I'm gonna read this little passage for you, and it says, "But when he came to himself, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants are have more than enough bread, and yet here I perish in the pig pen in hunger.'" And he said the most fascinating thing. He said, "But when he came to himself." And I've always seen this part, and it's always bothered me. And I've never been able to really understand what it was, and why it's always stumped me. And who was he before? Like, what was he doing? Who was he during this time, and who was he before, and who did he change? What happened? Like, did something happen in his life that he just had to take the money and go? Like, he just was done. He is frustrated. He was depressed, anxious, something. I don't know. But when I get to heaven, I sure as heck I'm gonna ask him. I'm gonna sit him down, and we're gonna have a cup of coffee together. And I started to question if this was me. Do I feel like this lately? Am I myself? And these past 2 years have been rough on everybody. It's been rough on me, because I stopped going to church. I stopped hanging out with friends. I stopped exercising. I stopped caring. And it got to the point where there was a rift in the relationship that God and I had built. And I no longer wanted to sit and study, because what was the point? I couldn't do anything with it. I wasn't going anywhere with it. And I wanted to just hang out in my digital cowboy game. And we're a world where it wasn't being consumed with politics and a pandemic, and who believes in why they believe in when, and it was so much, and it really hurt me, the world. And I learned that I put everything in the world and not in God, and that God was no longer my priority. You know, I have a toddler slash preschooler and a preteen who is just all sorts of preteen. And I didn't have the energy to shower some days. Like, I just was depressed and I was sad and I fell away from God. And I kept walking. And life got messy and I got more angry and my marriage was just too much work and it just became stale and we were just there. We weren't together. And I started listening to less music, less Christian music, and less, you know, scrolling past all the social media, like just anything that said God, I would just keep going as quick as I could. And this was a new level of low for me, and I never turned away this hard. I've always been a rebellious person, but this was an interesting 2 years for me. And I ran so hard I turned back and I couldn't even see him anymore. Not because God had moved, but because I had ran. And I thought to myself, well, I'm saved. It's all good. I can slack off a little bit here and there, and I don't need to read his word every day, and I don't need to read every prayer request on Facebook. And soon, I felt like I took my portion of my inheritance and just ran and used it all up because I didn't have anything left. I was stuck in a mud pit. I was hungry. I was tired. And then I came to myself. I arose and went to my father and said, Father, I have sinned against you and against heaven, and I'm sorry. And I struggle every day still with that thought of depression and that thought of I have my inheritance. And then I remember that it is a daily bread, that it is a continual transition from I have enough to I need more. And then his dad did something just amazing. He saw him and ran to him and gave him the best robe and put a ring on his hands and his shoes, and God did that for me, and he opened this amazing opportunity to sit here in front of you. And if you're listening to this, I have a feeling at some point in time that you've turned your back and haven't quite fully made it back home. And I want to encourage you to come running back home. Come sit at the table and be in awe of everything that God has placed in front of you. Have a blessed day, guys.